Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Meetings, hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. A minute or so hi. How are we today? Hello. Hello. I know I'm late, I'm sorry. I'm eating dinner right now. So, we're gonna watch the Funkland while I eat. Yeah. On the Master Weekly Borderlands. Yeah. Because no rules coming. That's why. Because no rules, that's why we got ice cream cookies. Anyways, now watch the Funkland. Make sure you go white. Those guys have Tid the Funkland. He's really cool. He's really cool and good. Make sure you go your son can. Yes, we'll watch the Funkland and then we'll play some video games. Does sound like a plan? That's not like a plan. Okay. Let me know if too loud, too quiet, you know, the gist. Ominous music.
So what started as a neat little idea has turned into a billion-dollar monster that is now actively eating guests at the park. What do? You could kill the monster, but you don't want to because you spent $1 billion making it, and some guests have befriended the monster and have really come to like it, so that would be sad for them. Okay, so we're not killing it. What if the monster was friends with everybody? Can't do that. As long as the monster is still alive, it has to eat a certain amount of people. What if the monster had more friends than it does now? In order for the monster to be able to have more friends, i.e. fast pass users, there would need to be more ride capacity. This could be done by adding new attractions. However, many argue that this will trigger induced demand, which is when increasing the supply of something also increases its demand. The most common example being a highway adding another lane, and rather than reducing traffic, it actually increases congestion. This is not perfectly comparable to theme parks. The reason traffic increases when you add a lane to a highway is because the increased supply reduces the price, or in this case, congestion, enough for the demand to increase in response. New drivers are not generated simply by the allure or appeal of the lane itself. However, in theme parks, this is the case. New rides, especially good ones, almost always draw in new guests, often offsetting any capacity gained by the addition. Also, building new rides is expensive and takes time, and is by no means a quick fix. What if you could increase the capacity of an already existing ride? As we've discussed, ride capacity is finite and is determined by design and operation. You can't just put more ride cars on Space Mountain or make it go faster. What if it wasn't finite? Well, unfortunately it is. Unless you were to just build a second Dumbo right next to the first one. So they did that. But that's an easy one. You can't do that with most rides. Like, you can't just build another theater for Soarin'. You can actually, and they did. But that was to support the new Soarin' Around the World ride film. Would they really do that with a ride just to quietly increase capacity? But despite all of these strategies to increase capacity and thus slow down the monster,
No, you have to work. I'm doing alright. I'm doing alright. Oh. Sigh.
the monster continued to grow for a factor that we have not even discussed yet: attendance. When Paper FastPass was introduced in 1999, 42.6 million people visited Walt Disney World annually. When XPass was developed in 2008, 47.1 million people visited annually. By the time FastPass Plus rolled out in 2013, 50.1 million people visited annually. In 2014, 51.5 million people visited. In 2015, 54 million. By 2019, over
That's a lot of people.
58 million people were visiting the resort annually, a 16% increase since when FastPass Plus was introduced. The FastPass system was designed to be dynamic, but the rate at which attendance increased was unpredictable, and FastPass Plus did not operate well under it, so the monster only grew bigger. Some parks fared better than others. For instance, Magic Kingdom has a wide array of attractions and appeals to many different demographics. When attendance increases,
Yeah, I slept.
not all of those
At them
additional
again.
visitors want to go to one specific ride. If the park has an annual increase of 100,000 visitors, not all 100,000 visitors want to ride Space Mountain. Compare this to a park like Animal Kingdom that in 2017 added Pandora: The World of Avatar, a heavily promoted and well-received addition to a park that doesn't have that many attractions to offer. From 2016 to 2017, Animal Kingdom saw an increase of 1.7 million guests. From 2017
That's what I
to
guessed.
2018, it saw an increase of an additional 1.2 million guests. Because this was
I
sparked by a
guessed.
single land that only had 2 attractions, it is safe to assume that the majority of these visitors not only wanted to ride Flight of Passage, but that they were determined to. Not only were they determined to, but it was the only reason they chose to visit Animal Kingdom in the first place. This is known as inelastic demand, when the wait time of a ride has little to no effect on the amount of people that want to ride it. This was the case with Flight of Passage, as it seemed that no wait time would turn guests away. As a result, wait times increased to 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5
That's to say,
hours, and one day there was a posted 6-hour and 40-minute wait for the
God. Why would you do that to yourself?
4.5-minute attraction. So with attendance increasing and with additional capacity on its way, guests were starting to notice the issues. In response, departments throughout Walt Disney World argued that they should be given additional fast passes. Guest services wanted more fast passes for compensation purposes, while the resorts argued that they needed more fast passes at the 60-day mark so that hotel guests could receive their perks. In 2018, club-level guests at select resorts were allowed access to a new tier of FastPass Plus, allowing them to book 6 fast passes in advance, 3 at the 90-day mark, and 3 more at the 60-day mark for an upcharge of
God.
$50 per person per day. The more fast
Good
passes
line,
that were
me.
handed out, the more the monster grew and grew and grew. Then, in the summer of 2019, Universal Orlando debuted a new ride at their Islands of Adventure theme park, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter's Hagrid's Magical Creature.
I ridden this ride. It was cool. It's scary, but it was cool. I rode the motorbike this time.
Motorbike Adventure TM. The new ride was heavily anticipated and drew large crowds. There was only one issue. It did not work, at least not
No,
consistently.
that'll do
This
it.
led to frequent downtimes throughout the first few weeks of operation, and when paired with the massive demand, waits climbed to up to 10 hours. Why is this relevant?
Jeez.
Because also in the summer of 2019, Disney was opening its heavily anticipated Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. After reports that crowds for the new land were far less than expected, the chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences and Products, Bob Chapek, took a jab at Universal, saying, quote, "The deep secret is that we don't intend to have lines. If you build in enough capacity, the rides don't go down, and it operates at 99% efficiency, you shouldn't have 10-hour lines. So 10-hour lines are not a sign of success. It should be seen as a sign of, frankly, failure." Coincidentally, Disney was about to debut another ride for Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, the land's signature
I ran that one
attraction,
too.
which, like Hagrid's, did not work consistently, and the ride was primed for the FastPass monster to swallow guests, resulting in huge wait times. Under pressure to open the ride anyways, Disney took extreme measures to ensure that wait times remained under control, in order to keep guests comfortable and satisfied, and not at all because the chairman of the parks publicly deemed a 10-hour line a failure in the press months earlier. When Rise of the Resistance opened at Walt Disney World in December of 2019, it utilized a new virtual queue system that completely eliminated the standby line.
I've ridden this ride. There was no virtual queue. The line also wasn't too bad. It was actually kind of fun.
Assigning guest boarding groups that would be called throughout the day. The idea reportedly came from, of all places, the DM.
Yeah, of course, you know.
Had implemented a customer service system in which guests calling the helpline were given a call back rather than being put on hold. So that's where we are, everybody. The virtual queue nearly eliminated lines for Rise of the Resistance, but it left many guests frustrated when boarding groups ran out almost immediately in the morning, with the app informing guests that the ride was booked for the rest of the day before the sun had even come up. But hey, there were no 10-hour lines, so it did its job. Speaking of new systems, also in 2019, at the D23 Expo in Anaheim, Bob Chapek announced, "Whatever this is."
It's called Disney Genie. It will put customized itineraries geared towards your interest at your fingertips, cutting down.
Mr. Ready, attraction movie seen the wait time. It wasn't that bad when I went.
On the need to plan and research.
So with the old system raging on, a new one just beginning, and a future one in development, the beast was growing faster than ever. Every attempt to fix the problem was at best a stall, but most often, the attempts only made the monster's damage worse. The amount of guests that the system benefited declined, while those that did benefit were more loyal to it than ever, because it was more necessary than ever to have a good time at the parks. The more fast passes that were added to the system, the more the monster grew. The more people that came to the parks, the more the monster grew. The monster grew and grew until Walt Disney World had finally succumbed to the beast.
What is that? Dang, 45 streak. Jeez.
Well, boss, good news. We broke everything.
Huh? What do you mean?
You know that thing that doesn't directly make us money that we spent $1 billion on?
Yeah?
Well, it's broken. But on the bright side, it also broke everything. Look.
Those people are just trying to go to the attractions. Why is it...
Eating them? I don't know.
Why isn't it eating those people?
Oh, those people are friends with it.
Oh my gosh, how is this good news?
Everything is broken.
Yeah, but how is that good?
Come on, boss, don't you see? Everything is broken, which means we can charge people money to bypass the mess we created.
Huh?
Right now, most of the people that have befriended the monster are buying rooms at our hotels, and as a perk, the monster won't eat them as much. But our research shows that getting rid of this perk won't really hurt our hotel business all that much. So instead, let's just start charging people to be friends with the monster. Look at this graph. This kind of advantage shouldn't be a hotel perk. It should be an additional charge.
Dotson, you're a genius.
Boss, that's not even the best part. Look at all these people. They're where the real money is.
We're going to charge people to have a worse day?
No, of course not. But we're gonna make money from them. See, it takes these people 10 hours to do 6 rides. That's not even accounting for walking, bathroom breaks, or meals. The park is only open for 12 hours. There's no way they're gonna do those 6 rides in a single day, which means
They'll have to come another day, which means they'll have to buy more tickets.
Exactly. Either they buy into the system to do everything they want to do in one day, or they have to do multiple days, which means more money for us.
This
Yeah.
is genius.
And all it took was $1 billion and a lot of mistakes.
Well, Dotson, in life, you win some, you lose some. And sometimes you manage to do both at the same time.
There's just one problem. The friends of the monster are not going to be happy with us when we charge for this.
Oh, you're right. That would be a PR nightmare. It would take some sort of global, cataclysmic event that would shut down our business long enough for us to make drastic changes to our operating procedure, while also giving us a shield from criticism of those changes.
Oh, did you not hear?
Breaking just into our newsroom
Like that.
move amid the coronavirus. Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando both announcing they are closing their theme parks.
And your reaction?
Sad.
Do you understand why?
Yeah.
Yes.
After being closed
It's
for
really
4
funny.
months for the COVID-19 pandemic, Walt Disney World reopened in July of 2020, while Disneyland would not reopen until April of 2021. When they did, both FastPass Plus and MaxPass had been suspended for social distancing purposes, and a new park reservation system was implemented to limit crowds. Bob Chapek was now the CEO of Disney after Bob Iger suddenly and coincidentally retired 2 weeks before the world shut down. Chapek commented on the changes coming to the parks as they reopened, saying, quote, "Obviously nobody wants to have the parks closed for up to a year. But at the same time, we realized that was a unique opportunity maybe to advance some things that would have been difficult, if not impossible, for us to go change in an operating environment. And so we made some moves already, but we're going to make further moves. These moves were revealed in August of 2021 when Disneyland announced that both FastPass Plus and MaxPass would be officially discontinued. Replacing the programs would be the long-anticipated Genie app. The Genie app would use all of Disney's internal data as well as guest preferences to intelligently plan itineraries in order to maximize efficiency throughout the parks. Unlike FastPass Plus, Genie is simple. There are now 4 ways to visit attractions: the standby queue, the virtual queue, Lightning Lane through Genie Plus, or Lightning Lane through additional purchases. For any ride, guests can still choose to wait in the standby line, except for the rides in which they can't, which are the ones using virtual queue. If an attraction is using virtual queue, guests must wake up at 7 a.m. on the day of and attempt to join the virtual queue from their phones. If they don't get a boarding group, then they will have another chance once they are inside the park at 1 p.m. If guests don't want to wait in the standby line or use a virtual queue, for $15 per person per day, they can upgrade to Genie Plus, which is similar to Disneyland's Max Pass, allowing them to obtain 1 Lightning Lane pass every 2 hours or after the first one is redeemed, except rather than being inside the park, they can make their first reservation from anywhere at 7 a.m. on the day of. However, not all Lightning Lane attractions are included in Genie Plus. Some are available for additional purchase with varying prices depending on the season. For instance, the Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance, which moved to a seasonal standby queue, will cost $15 per person, so guests either pay $15 per person to enter the Lightning Lane or enter the standby queue if it is available. If not, they need to wake up at 7 a.m. to enter the virtual queue, or just pay the $15 per person to enter the Lightning Lane. See? Simple. And hugely popular. Or is it? Who's to say? There were rumors of paid FastPass long before the pandemic, since Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, and Shanghai Disneyland all utilize some form of a paid FastPass system. And with the introduction of Genie Plus, Tokyo Disneyland is now the only remaining park to utilize free FastPass, still using a combination of paper and digital passes. There's 2 ways to look at this change: the optimistic version and the pessimistic version. The optimistic version is that Disney is once again trying to improve everyone's enjoyment of the park.
I just like I'm mad dogging that desk. Look at him.
The optimistic
Look at him. He's looking at her weird.
version is
Weird.
that Disney is
Huh.
once again trying to improve everyone's enjoyment of the parks, this time by reducing the amount of people using the FastPass system. If this occurs, it will reduce standby wait times while giving once-in-a-lifetime vacationers the option to experience more. The fact that they are using the MaxPass model of only allowing guests to book passes day of seems to be a deliberate attempt to reduce the negative side effects caused by FastPass Plus. Combining this with rising ticket prices, which reduce demand, and a park reservation system to place a cap on guests and predict how many guests will visit, Disney
What's
now
that,
has
Floaty?
more control over crowds than ever. Plus, the Genie app suggestion and itinerary tools will be able to reproduce some of the positive distribution features of FastPass Plus by directing guests to underutilized areas of the park, and it could even increase the average number of attractions per day. The pessimistic version is that Disney wants money. They increase ticket prices not to reduce demand and
Obviously.
lower crowds, but because they can. They're not charging for FastPass to get less people to use the system, they're charging for it because they can. The $15 price for Genie Plus seems to be
I walked 8 miles home? Jeez. Hope you're feeling alright. Sorry, Rick. Sorry to hear that. Never was in Disneyland? I've been a couple times. It was fun when I went. Minnesota, thank you for the gifted son. Love you. Enjoy your sim.
a good indication that Disney expects a majority of vacationers to buy into the system. And if utilization remains anywhere close to FastPass Plus, every travel agent and vacation guide will suggest that their travelers buy into the system, because $15 to experience all of the rides in one day is a lot cheaper than spreading out a park visit over 2 or more days. The paid FastPass system also gives Disney more motivation than ever to inflate wait times and favor Lightning Lane over standby, with the job of the cast member at the merge point becoming even even more difficult. The truth might be somewhere in the middle of these two outlooks. Disney understands they need to reduce usage of FastPass Plus, and rather than getting rid of it, they choose the option that also makes them money. So far, the amount of passes offered seems somewhat limited, with Lightning Lane on popular attractions running out quickly in the morning, but who knows if this will remain the case. As with FastPass and FastPass Plus, the true effects of the new system
And if I get to Disneyland, this wasn't a thing. There was no fast pass or anything. It just wasn't there.
likely will not be seen
So
for
I don't
quite
know.
some time. So the FastPass beast has finally been killed. Or maybe it's just been put inside a cage, behind stronger paywalls. Maybe it will get out one day, or maybe it will remain under control. But what a monster it has become. In a way, we've truly come full circle. In 1971, Magic Kingdom opened with a ticket book system in which guests had to pay to ride each ride. And exactly 50 years later, in 2021, guests are once again paying to ride rides, or at least skip the line. Despite a similar destination, the path that queuing at the Disney parks has taken over the past 5 decades was anything but predictable. And this long, winding narrative shines a light on an oft-overlooked aspect of the theme park industry. We have examined ad nauseum the ways in which Imagineers and theme park designers create immersive worlds that transport guests out of their reality and into a new one. But the story of FastPass is one of the rare tales that belongs not to the Imagineers, but to operations. If the Imagineer's job is to design and construct environments that entertain and immerse guests, it is the job of operations managers, cast members, and industrial engineers to operate and maintain these environments. And their job is more involved in a park's escapism than one might initially think. When operations find strategies and test systems that have the potential to take the guest experience to the next level, they are not merely increasing guest satisfaction, but they are supporting the environments and stories of the parks by offering a higher level of escapism. There is no better example of this than FastPass. Long lines have always been a disruptive force in the Disney parks, detracting from the guest experience and often the design intentions of the park's theming. After all, the real world has lines. At the bank, at restaurants, at the DMV. Attempting to remove them, or at least giving guests the ability to avoid them, has the potential to create an experience better than reality, thus assisting in the escapism and immersion of the parks. However, with the evolution of FastPass, we also saw the opposite side of this coin. Instead of operations creating a reality better than ours, the disparities and inequalities of the real world were allowed to creep in. Whether guests were separated by knowledge specific to the park or their personal financial situation, utilizing a system that allows for these disparities can take away from the intention, uniqueness, and beauty of the theme park experience. This is not to say that these strategies weren't worth experimenting with, and I'm sure that we'll see many more in the future. As we know, queuing is always evolving, and no one knows for sure what the next step will be. But what does seem certain is that as long as there is something worth waiting for, there will probably be a wait for it. So I'll ask you again, how much do you know about lines?
Last to Disneyland last year, there wasn't any fast pass. There just wasn't anything like it. There's no lightning lane, there was no fast pass, there's nothing. So I wonder if they just like completely axed the system or like what happened to it. So I don't know. As always, guys, to support the fun plan. They're really cool. Devin Pardew and all that, to support him. He's really cool. Alright, I'm gonna be right back real quick. And we'll watch one more video. But yes, I do have to be right back, okay? See me. Why are you playing? Give me a second, I'll be right back. side, I'm back. I'm back, correct? Okay, let's watch this video about these cities that run by kids. Made by Defunct Land, of course, goes on Shepherd Net.
1991, Mexico City. Entrepreneur Luis Javier Larascote starts a toy distribution company. The name? Amazing Toys. Not Juguetes Increíbles, Amazing Toys, in English. That's because the toys are imported from the United States. Sea monkeys, Venus flytraps, novelty stuff. Amazing. And it was, until December 1994, when the Mexican currency crisis hit. The peso was devalued by 50%, and the international novelty toy trade went down with it. Amazing Toys faced bankruptcy, and Larascote was forced to dream a different dream. If not toy distribution, perhaps toy manufacturing. Larascote had 2 children, and they loved playing with his office equipment. He bought them toy phones, but they were far more interested in the real thing. Maybe he could manufacture better toys. Or maybe he could create the real thing. Larascote approached his childhood best friend, Javier Lopez Ancona, with a new idea. Larascote and Lopez Ancona had met in the 2nd grade, and both had dreamed of working in entertainment. Larascote wanted to open his own fair, and Lopez Ancona wanted to be a magician. Both had instead found success in more traditional business ventures. Larascote at Amazing Toys, and Lopez Ancona as the director of venture capital at General Electric. But Larascote's bold concept could foray them both into the world of entertainment. Larascote described his idea as a nursery based on role-playing. He later explained, quote, "What for us may be everyday and boring reality, for children is a fantasy. I remember that I loved being taken to the bank. I saw it as something wonderful, but I couldn't reach the counters." Larascote's pitch was a unique, simulated experience with elaborate theming and complex operations. The concept would answer the need he saw in his children, the ability to take on mature responsibilities, perform grown-up tasks, and try their hand at adult professions, but on a scale accessible to them. A city where the children were in charge.
Look crazy, but you're all. Where did he get that footage?
Larascote's idea for a children's city was intriguing, but the venture came with much uncertainty. At this point in the late 1990s, themed entertainment startups aimed at regional audiences were a common sight in malls and entertainment districts. Successful concepts enjoyed a steady stream of local families, mall goers, and birthday parties. At the same time, many regional entertainment concepts went as quickly as they came, and by the turn of the millennium, the fun center fad appeared to be on its way out, with many large corporations with established brands struggling to succeed in the competitive space. Larascote and Lopez Ancona were also at a unique disadvantage, as Mexico was still struggling to recover from the economic crisis that had destroyed Amazing Toys. For Lopez Ancona, this uncertainty was juxtaposed against his comfortable venture capital job, so he rejected Larascote's concept of a children's role-playing city. However, Larascote was insistent, and he eventually convinced his friend to enter into business with him. Lopez Ancona quit his job, and the two began planning their children's city. The initial plan called for a modest venue of 500 square meters, or around 5,000 square feet. This space would allow small groups of children to act out jobs in miniature recreations of common city structures, such as a fire station and a bank. The list of role-playing activities grew as the concept was fleshed out, and as a result, the two realized that they needed a much larger space, 6 times larger than their initial estimate. The two decided that Mexico City's Centro Santa Fe, the largest shopping mall in all of Mexico, would be the ideal site for their concept. They would lease a space of 6,000 square meters, or 20,000 square feet. This venue would allow them to build a much larger small city, with more space and opportunities for children to roleplay. As the thematic ambitions and required space grew, so did the budget. Larascote and Lopez Ancona exhausted their savings investing into the project, and they eventually had to approach additional investors, including Lopez Ancona's brother Esteban. Still, this was not enough. Strapped for cash and already deep in the project, the team brainstormed a new way to raise the necessary funds. The initial plan was to brand the miniature city's businesses and public services with either generic names or none at all. The small role-playing buildings within the city would be labeled simply, such as beauty salon or pizza. However, the team recognized this as an area to raise funds. They could invite real-world companies to sponsor their equivalent businesses within the small-scale city. Larascote and Lopez Ancona began knocking on doors, hoping that some business would believe in their concept and be generous enough to support them. In the end, a few businesses agreed to support the Children's City, including Coca-Cola, American Airlines, Burger King, Nestle, General Motors, Domino's Pizza, Johnson & Johnson, and Walmart. 42 sponsors signed on to the unproven concept. Of the $7 million required to construct the park, 55% came from these corporate partnerships. Construction on the project was completed in the summer of 1999, and on August 19th, Larus Gotti and Lopez Ancona's Dream Park, named La Ciudad de los Niños, or the City of Children, had its inaugural ceremony. To enter the new attraction, families visiting the Santa Fe Shopping Center approached a storefront that resembled an airport terminal with official American Airlines branding. Here, guests paid their travel fare to gain entry to the City of Children. Tickets cost 90 pesos per child and 60 pesos per adult, or around $9.50 and $6 respectively. Along with their plane fare, children were given a bank check for 300 pesitos, or little pesos. The official
Like Thumbiga. They look like Pop Tropica. Non-genre, maybe like a piece of cast up like Pop Tropica guys. You know what I'm talking
currency
about?
of the City of Children. Families walked through security, where children were given a tracking device in the form of a wristband. This piece of technology allowed children to roam freely throughout the complex, while parents could relax with the peace of mind that their children could not leave the premises without them and could be easily found via the bracelet. The first action for kids to perform after entering the City of Children was cashing the check they were given at the gate. To do this, children needed to visit the bank, open an account, and receive an ATM card that they could use throughout their visit. From there, children began their fake lives in earnest, with two main categories of activity: spending and earning. Children could spend pesitos on activities such as General Motors bumper cars or on food such as Burger King fries. They could even drive their General Motors bumper car to the Burger King drive-thru, assuming they
That's kinda cool, I'm not
had
gonna
enough
lie.
10x gas to get there. Children could also spend their pesitos to take a simulated trip on an American Airlines flight or to take out a mini pizza from Domino's. To earn pesitos, kids needed to pick up a job. The City of Children offered a wide variety of employment opportunities. Some of these, such as repeller or race car driver, were standard amusement attractions, with set dressing to make them appear as jobs. Other roles were completely unique themed experiences devised just for La Ciudad de los Niños. Child firefighters dropped down a fire pole or slid down a slide when an emergency called. The mini heroes suited up, climbed onto an operating fire truck, and were driven to the scene of a fire. After arriving,
That's really cool. I like that, that's really
it was
cool.
up to the kids to put out the fake flames with real water hoses. Construction workers laid brick walls while a large concrete truck spun its mixing tank on the job site. Children could be anything from a doctor to a manicurist, a reporter to an archaeologist. Each activity was unique, engaging, and impressively themed. Each job lasted between 15 and 45 minutes, and was designed for children between the ages of 4 and 13 years old. Kids could perform multiple jobs during their visit, and it was impossible to do all of the roles in a single day. While children worked on the first floor, adults could relax in a lounge above and watch over the activity of the bustling city below. Also located on the second floor was an area filled with play places and kiddie rides for children 3 and under. La Ciudad de los Niños was an ambitious and risky project, but it was executed incredibly. The attraction was an immediate success, with the miniature city often hitting its capacity of 1,500 guests. In the first year, around 750,000 people visited the City of Children, exceeding Larus Gotti and Lopez Ancona's wildest expectations. Operations would soon have to be split on certain days into 2 separate 5-hour blocks in order to manage crowds. The uniqueness of La Ciudad de los Niños gave it a distinct advantage over other regional themed entertainment centers. Since the premise of the city was to allow children to role-play adult professions, many of the activities were educational in nature. This meant that the Children's City could act as a field trip destination for nearby schools, while still attracting the typical fun center crowd of families and birthday parties. Plus, repeat visits were encouraged in the game design, as children could earn money for their ATM card and come back on a different day with money already in the bank that they had earned from a previous visit. The impressive attendance and positive reception kick-started talks of expansion, and within months of opening, the City of Children had bold plans for their future. Larus Gotti and Lopez Ancona partnered with amusement park operator Grupo Mexico to expand La Ciudad de los Niños worldwide. The partnership bred a new company, Kid City International, which hoped to build 200 kid cities within 5 years. The first locations considered were Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, Munich, and Tokyo. The group would start by building a new location in Monterrey, which was expected to open as early as late.
When I Disney, so get it right. But no. I'm eating real quick and then we're gonna play
2000.
Borderlands.
However, it was at this point that Larescotti and Lopez Ancona began to disagree about the future of the company. Larescotti appeared to side with Grupo Mexico's proposal of expansion, while Lopez Ancona and his brother wanted to go in a different direction. Behind closed doors, tensions rose, and Larescotti and Lopez Ancona decided that something needed to change with their business partnership. Unfortunately, neither wanted a cash out of La Ciudad de los Niños, and both seemed interested in expansion. In August of 2001, just 2 years after the City of Children opened, it was decided that Larescotti would leave the company. As part of the agreement, Larescotti would receive a payout from La Ciudad de los Niños, as well as the rights to build his own children's cities in specified territories. Lopez Ancona would retain the rights to expand La Ciudad de los Niños throughout Mexico, California, and Spain, while Larescotti and Grupo Mexico could build the concept in Miami and parts of South America. It was also agreed that for every location that Larescotti built, Lopez Ancona would receive 0.25% of the revenue for the first.
With on the mini, we're watching the Funk Lane real quick and then we're gonna play Borderlands later. I'm just gonna finish eating and then we'll play Borderlands.
First 5 years of operation. In return, Larescotti would be
You're talking about land eating. I had corn eggs and french fries earlier, now I'm eating
given
popcorn.
access to the existing La Ciudad de los Niños in Mexico City to showcase the concept to potential investors. With the divorce finalized, the group split, each looking to conquer their respective territories and populate the Americas with more kid cities. Lopez Ancona's initial plans for an expansion to Monterrey, Mexico continued, but an unexpected complication arose. In 2001, it was announced that a new theme park was to be built in Monterrey named Mundo de Veras, or World of Reality. The new park would be a role-playing theme park with a very similar premise to us.
As you grab a lunch at a fair, that's really funny, or a baseball game.
Ciudad de los Niños, with the two main differences being its larger scale and outdoor setting. Reports speculated that Lopez Ancona was planning a plagiarism suit against Mundo de Veras to block it from its opening. Despite this, plans for a La Ciudad
It's the Funkland. Everybody's over in the
de
Funkland.
los Niños in Monterrey continued, but it appeared that Lopez Ancona and company were prioritizing a location in the United States over everything else. Plans for a City of Children in Los Angeles and New York were put into development, despite the latter location not being specified in the parting agreement. The Los Angeles location was being planned as part of a brand new mall project, while the New York location was to lease a space in the Palisades Center shopping mall, located in Clarkstown, New York. Lopez Ancona and company pitted the two mall developers against one another, pursuing the Los Angeles location and New York location at the same time. Unfortunately, both projects ran into issues. The Los Angeles Mall project struggled during its development, and the Palisades location had to be put up to a public vote due to a covenant between the mall owners and the local community. On top of this, the Monterrey location, which had its opening postponed to 2002, was delayed indefinitely. On November 5, 2002, the City of Children plan for the Palisades Center was rejected by local voters. This was due to the community's poor relationship with the mall and its owners, and the fact that the City of Children had been labeled a theme park, which many feared would bring in additional issues to the area such as traffic. 3 days after this vote, a City of Children announced that it had received approval to move forward, but it would not be any of Lopez Ancona's. Instead, it would be Larescotti and Grupo Mexico that would strike first, announcing that their children's city concept would be built in South Florida, under the new name, Wanna-Do City.
Wanna-Do City.
Larescotti's new Kid City venture was to include everything that made La Ciudad de los Niños a success, but on an even grander scale. The new project would cost an estimated $40 million to construct, and it would be more than
That's a lot
double
of
the
money.
size of the original City of Children. Wanna-Do City would be located just outside of Miami in Sunrise, Florida. Larescotti and Grupo Mexico would lease a large space in the Sawgrass Mills shopping mall. This space was previously the home decor superstore Wakama's Home Place. Wanna-Do City would be the size of 3 football fields, around 140,000 square feet.
Jeez, that's a
Sawgrass
lot. That's
Mills was
big,
one of
man.
the largest shopping centers in the United States and a well-established tourist destination. The mall was the second largest in the country in terms of shopping traffic. The Mills Corporation, the owner and operator of Sawgrass Mills, would also invest in the Wanna-Do project, believing that the concept would cement Sawgrass Mills as South Florida's premier tourist attraction, as well as encourage children's retailers to lease space in the mall. Lariscotti hoped to sign as many as 70 corporate sponsors to brand the various city buildings around Wanadu City, as had been done at La Ciudad de los Niños, estimating that each sponsorship would be worth around $250,000. The concept art for
As you
Wanadu
do.
City showcased its many similarities to La Ciudad de los Niños, including the entrance theme to a plane terminal, with a real out-of-commission DC-9 being brought into Wanadu City to serve as the park's icon. Although many parts of the concept appeared identical to the original City of Children, Wanadu City's expansive scale promised several original and ambitious experiences. Concept art showcased a second entrance, in which families could travel to the city via a large cruise ship. Initial reports also touted more role-playing areas than La Ciudad de los Niños, with over 60 venues, as well as additional careers for children to try out, as many as 250. Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico had high hopes for the project, hoping that between 800,000 and 1 million guests would enter Wanadu City annually. This estimate was based primarily on the success that La Ciudad de los Niños was experiencing. Wanadu would focus its attractions on children ages 4 through 12, and would charge between $15 and $30 for children and around $10 for adults. Construction would
It's a
begin
lot
in
more
2003,
expensive. Wow.
with opening targeted for early 2004. During initial announcements, Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico made it clear that the Florida location would be just the beginning of the Wanadu franchise, with a second location already under development in the Mills Corporation's new shopping mall, the Meadowlands Xanadu Complex in New Jersey, which was set to break ground in 2004. After this, Wanadu City would expand further, with Dallas, Atlanta, Chicago, and Toronto all under consideration for the new locations. Within weeks of Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico's announcement of Wanadu City, Lopez and Kona contacted Lariscotti, informing him of Wanadu City's possible intellectual property infringement. It is unclear what these initial concerns were, or how Lariscotti and Wanadu City violated the terms of the La Ciudad de los Niños parting agreement. But within just a few months, Lopez and Kona filed a lawsuit against his former business partner and friend, as well as Grupo Mexico. Lopez and Kona and Company reportedly demanded $6 million from Lariscotti and his investors, which was swiftly denied. The Wanadu City Group offered to advance Lopez and Kona's 0.25% of Wanadu's revenue over the first 5 years of operation, which they would calculate based on their projections, but Lopez and Kona rejected this offer. Deliberation was held in May of 2003, as Wanadu City was well under construction. At one point, it was reported that Grupo Mexico had offered Lopez and Kona and Company $2 million and an additional $1 million for each of the first 8 Wanadu cities that Grupo Mexico would open, for a maximum potential settlement amount of $10 million. However, this proposal was also rejected, and the lawsuits continued. In early 2004, Wanadu City delayed its original April opening to July. With construction almost complete and employee training already underway, Lopez and Kona and Company filed another suit against the project, this time in Fort Lauderdale Federal Court, in an attempt to block the opening of Wanadu City. The opening was delayed once more, now slated for August. Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico refused to allow Lopez and Kona to prevent Wanadu City from opening. Fortunately for Lariscotti, the court denied the immediate request to block the park's operation, with several lawsuits still pending and
Anyway, Ben, thank you for the follow.
no
Battalion.
settlement reached. Wanadu City officially opened its doors on August 13, 2004, and handed over city operations to the children of South Florida.
It's the fantastic all-new Wanadu City, the very first Wanadu City in America. We train them, we gear them up, then they do the coolest jobs in the world.
Wanadu City claimed to be the first indoor role-playing theme park in the United States, with advertising encouraging visitors to tap into, quote, your child's inner adult. While the majority of those visiting
That's
Wanadu
cute.
City were greeted with an experience unlike any other, those familiar with La Ciudad de los Niños would notice even more similarities than originally advertised. Wanadu City used almost identical role-playing experiences, thematic elements, and game design. The city featured a similar adult lounge on the second floor in the same watchtower configuration, with Wanadu City's being dubbed the Eagle's Nest. The city even used the same wristband security technology of La Ciudad de los Niños to ensure a safe experience for parents and kids. As promised, the expansive space allowed for additional venues of a larger scale, such as a big top circus and ancient ruins. These massive areas resulted in a capacity nearly double that of the original City of Children, with 2,700 kids able to visit Wanadu City at one time. To handle these crowds,
Cool.
400 employees were hired to operate the city. The original promise of over 250 unique job experiences was reduced to just over 100 when the park opened. Many of these jobs shared the same venues and worked closely with other positions. Want-to-do jobs included firefighter, police officer, lawyer, jury member, journalist, newspaper editor.
Jury member? Jury member's not a job. Being on a jury isn't a job. What? My face when I go to the kid jury. My face when I go to kid trial to get sentenced to death because the kids want to go to the bathroom.
Airplane pilot, chef, baker, pizzeria employee, dentist, anesthesiologist, surgeon, emergency medical technician, pathologist, maternity ward nurse, musician, manicurist, hairstylist, fashion photographer, runway model, interior decorator, theater actor, theater director, film actor, film director, radio station host, DJ, television news anchor, clown, juggler, crime scene investigator, bail bondsman, librarian, archaeologist, rock climber, miner,
Bail bondsman? What?
jeweler, nightclub manager, and grocery store clerk. As with La Ciudad de los Niños, the citizens of Wanadu City, known as Citizens, would be handed their first check when they entered, which was worth 150 units of the city's unique currency, known as wongas. Citizens could earn wongas by performing jobs and spend wongas on activities around the city. Children could buy a ticket to the circus or theater show, cookies from the bakery, a manicure, a pedicure, a hairstyling, or a rock climbing experience. Wanadu City also had multiple items that could be bought, not with wongas, but real US dollars. With the parents' approval and money, kids working at the television news station could take home a DVD of themselves on the air for 10 real dollars. Children working in the maternity ward could pay to adopt a baby doll to take home with them. Some jobs also cost real money to perform, such as the pizzeria employee, which parents would need to pay for beforehand so that their child could eat the pizza at the end of the activity.
That sucks.
Wanadu City had a similar continuity to La Ciudad de los Niños, with certain jobs intersecting with one another. For instance, a child buying a ticket to the theater would see a show with the group of children that at that point in the day were role-playing as actors. Despite these few synergetic elements, the activities in Wanadu City were mostly isolated, and the progression of events would reset multiple times throughout the day. Wanadu City also featured event space for birthdays and other party groups. Lariscotti and the developers worked with local educators to meet state educational standards, so that the complex could act as a field trip destination, with special discounts given to school groups.
To investigate a story, put it on paper and see it printed out can never match an assignment in a classroom.
Wanadu City even opened up at night for adults-only events such as corporate parties, so that they could get drunk and pretend to be giants. Attendance at Wanadu City was strong right out of the gate. The experience appeared to be as big of a hit as La Ciudad de los Niños, with the potential to grow into something even bigger. Plans for the Wanadu City expansion were put into motion after opening, with Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico hoping for 9 additional locations. However, the multiple lawsuits from Lopez and Kona threatened to slow these ambitions. By this point, the exact allegations of the lawsuit were more clear, as were Lariscotti and Grupo Mexico's defenses. Lopez and Kona claimed that Lariscotti had stolen La Ciudad de los Niños' intellectual property rights. Lariscotti maintained that the parting agreement gave him the rights to the concept in the agreed-upon territories. Lopez and Kona and company asserted that the parting agreement only allowed Lariscotti to build a child role-playing theme park, and that he and Grupo Mexico had not been given the rights to the exact architectural plans and gameplay. Furthermore, Lariscotti was claiming both in the media and to investors that he was the originator of the concept.
I came up with the idea of Wanadu City looking at my kids.
While Lariscotti had personally come up with the idea, from a legal perspective, the originator of the concept and the owner of the intellectual property was La Ciudad de los Niños, and by extension, Lopez and Kona.
It pretty much is like a divorce. They're arguing like a whole married couple.
And his investors. At one point during the discussions, Grupo Mexico offered to buy the concept and the original La Ciudad de los Niños from Lopez and Kona, with Lopez and Kona setting the price at $27 million. Apparently, this number differed so greatly from the evaluation at the time of Larascoti's payout that Larascoti believed there to be a case of accounting fraud, launching a criminal complaint against La Ciudad de los Niños. As Wanadu was under construction and neared opening, Larascoti continued to claim that he was the originator of the concept, further fueling the lawsuit against him. Lopez and Kona also claimed that the section of the parting agreement that allowed Larascoti and Grupo Mexico to build a new location had lapsed. Larascoti added a new defense, at least in the press, that no one could own the copyright of children pretending to do adult jobs because this was a universal experience of childhood. However, Lopez and Kona and company were insistent that they were the legal originators of the concept, and decided to pursue a lawsuit against the Mills Corporation as well for leasing space to and investing in a venue that they saw as an infringement on their intellectual property. Then, Larascoti added an additional defense, that the concept of children's role-playing was not only not unique, but that there were already 120 similar venues to La Ciudad de los Niños and Wanadu City in existence.
The first one, huh?
Since the relatively recent invention of childhood, role-playing has been a favorite activity of the youth. In the early 20th century, children would often act out fantasies of their very gendered futures, with boys playing with toys resembling trains and farming equipment, and girls nursing baby dolls to sharpen their maternal instincts. This was a common experience among American children, mainly those born after the 1920s. As before this, children were often too busy working their real jobs to fantasize about working fake ones. Once it was a common idea in the US that children were innocent beings in need of protection, and not just tiny adults whose hands can reach that part of the machine that I can't, venues were constructed specifically for their enjoyment. Amusement parks, originally designed for local perverts, drunks, and picnickers, were transitioning to attractions made exclusively for children, relegating parents to park benches to merely observe their children's joy. As Kiddylands and similar children's amusement parks sprout up, so did alternative entertainment and educational centers designed for little ones. In 1899, the Brooklyn Children's Museum opened, offering unique exhibits tailor-made for children to interact with. This concept slowly spread throughout the United States during the 20th century, and by 1975, 38 children's museums had opened across the country. These concepts originally focused on science and local history, but eventually, economic exhibits allowed children to role-play various jobs in small mock-ups of consumer spaces, such as
Alright, okay. We're gonna go ahead and end that there. I have to go to the bathroom real quick. And then we'll play some Borderlands. Let's see, yes, I will be right back. Give me just a little bit.